Hey guys, Richard Blaine here. Thanks for stopping by. I know you usually see me standing in my kitchen, but tonight I'm in my back office. I'm not cooking. Tonight I'm not going to cook for you. Tonight I am going to do a gear review for you. People have been asking me to do more gear reviews, specifically more knife reviews. And that's what I'm going to be doing here today. So here I am, no chef coat, no makeup. This is basically the way I look every day of the week, and this is the way I look when I carry my everyday carry gear every day of the week. Sometimes I shave, and sometimes I don't. But this particular gear review entails the pocket knife, the folding knife, the fixed blade knife that you would carry with you every day if you are so inclined to carry a knife and other gear, flashlights and things like that, as I am. And I've been having some serious arguments back and forth about what is the best knife and where the best knives come from, and I am highly opinionated, and that's just the nature of me. So today I wanted to have a serious discussion on the best EDC knife for a person to carry for $100 or less and 100% American made. So let's get going and let's have this conversation. Okay, so what is the best EDC, everyday carry knife, that a person could carry on them for $100 or less and be 100% American made? Well, there are so many knives out there, so little time these days, so many choices, so many price variations. What a man or a woman would want to carry for a knife. How much do you want to spend? How big, how small do you want your EDC knife to be? Do you want it to be a fixed blade? Do you want it to be a folder? What brand of EDC knife do you want to carry? Do you want to carry American made? That is my first choice. Do you want to carry Japanese made, German made, French made? Does it really matter? Do you want to carry? Whether you're an avid hunter or a guy or a girl that just wants to carry an EDC knife, there are many to choose from. What you need to do is give it some serious thought into what kind of knife you want to carry with you. A tactical knife is thought of by many as just something that is used by military and law enforcement, and back when the tactical one-hander knife came into being in the early 80s, that was so. But today, the tactical one-handed folding knife has morphed into something completely different. Today, just about anybody that carries a pocket knife carries a one-handed folding knife, a one-hand opening folding knife. The tactical knife has been in production since about 1984, Spyderco being the originator. And at that point, yes, most of the people who used them were military and law enforcement, as the tactical one-hander was the newest thing on the market. Over the years, the tactical one-handed knife has found their way into the mainstream market for civilians and still law enforcement, military, tactical, EMTs, but civilians carry them too, because one-handed knives are being made in tactical forms, folding hunters, fixed blade tactical, many different kinds. So, when looking for the best tactical knife for EDC for $100 or less, there are many things to consider. One, do you want your tactical knife, either fixed blade or folder, to be a fixed blade or a folder? If you're going to carry one every day for work, as most of us, chances are it's going to be a folder. If you're geared toward outdoor activity, of course, then you'll want to consider your tactical knife, your primary one, to be a fixed blade, and then a folder as a secondary or even a third knife, as I ascribe to the MUK or muck system of knife carry out in the field, and I'll leave that for another video to discuss. What kind of steel do you want your tactical knife to be? Do you want it to be a carbon steel, 1095, 1085, 1060, 1055? What do you want it to be? Do you want your tactical knife to be a carbon steel? Do you want your tactical knife, folder or fixed, to be a high quality stainless steel, either from the USA, Japan, Germany, Sweden, Italy, a lot of places that make quality stainless steel? But something to consider. Your tactical knife, whether fixed blade or folder for $100 or less, going to be for civilian use, outdoor activities, or military and law enforcement? That's another question you need to ask yourself. Another question to ask yourself: what kind of locking mechanism do you want your everyday carry for $100 or less, everyday carry knife to be. You want it to be a back lock, a mid lock, a liner lock, a frame lock, an arc lock, an axis lock, a triad lock, a lake lock, a twist lock, a side lock, a Paul lock, Paul Pullman lock, a bar lock, a hammerhead lock, or a tie lock. There are so many locking mechanisms out there, it could just drive you crazy. With so many different forms of locking mechanism, you'll have to decide, do you want your EDC knife, if it's a folder, to be a manual opener or an assisted opener, or a full automatic if you can carry that. I want you to remember that the word tactical when it comes to knives refers to the use of one hand for opening and one hand only. One main concern about choosing your best everyday carry EDC knife for $100 or less is the fact that, are you going to use it, or is it just going to ride in your pocket and be personal? Another thing you want to consider is, will the knife be comfortable in your hand or not? Will it be a firm grip, or will the knife float around in your hand? Will your best EDC knife for $100 or less fit ergonomically into your hand? Will you be able to work with it for long periods of time in your hand without your hand cramping up, going numb, tingling? This is a very important consideration if you're out there in the field, because when you're using a knife, whether it's light duty or heavy duty, you are burning calories. The ergonomics, the fit in your hand, is very important. It's an extremely important consideration. Is the handle too thick? Is the handle too thin in your hand? It's another issue of comfort. What's it going to be? Do you prefer thin, or do you prefer thick to fill up your hand? Will the knife move around in your hand when you're using it? Will the knife move? You don't want it to move. You want your grip to be firm, tactile, and positive. You don't want it to leave gaps in your hand. One of the last things you need to consider is the method of carry for your best EDC knife for $100 or less. Will you just drop it in your pocket like a back pocket knife, a front pocket knife, or will you employ the use of the pocket clip, which is very common today? If you're using a fixed blade, do you want to wear it on a belt, or do you want the fixed blade to be able to be worn on the belt as well as MOLLE compatible for a military vest? Another important consideration. These are all common sense questions to approach when looking for your best EDC knife for $100 or less and 100% American made. So, that being said, let's move on to what my pick is for your best EDC knife for $100 or less and 100% American made. So let's take a look. So, people are going to ask me, what is my pick for the best EDC knife for $100 or less and 100% American made? And here they are. These are Griptilians, Benchmade Griptilians. This is the 550 hollow grind, and this is the 551 with a high flat grind and a black blade. This is my choice for the best EDC knife, folding knife, that you can carry in your pocket for $100 or less. This knife was designed by Mel Pardue for Benchmade. Okay. Now, people ask, why do I carry two? Well, first off, I ascribe to Jethro Gibbs' rule number 9. Never go anyplace without a knife. But I also ascribe to the fact that 1 is none and 2 is 1. As I said, I am a believer in the muck system of knife carry, but we will approach that in another video. So, here we are. This is the Mel Pardue Griptilian series. It's part of the Benchmade Blue class of knives. Mel Pardue's been making knives in America since 1957, and he's among a group of American great knife makers that have been around since the 40s or 50s. He is a legend among other guys like Loveless and Hibbin and Phil Herron and all other kinds of guys like that, and he became a Knife Guild member in 1976. A lot of people don't know that Mel Pardue wasn't always a knife maker. He was actually, his professional background is actually as a civil engineer. He's a graduate of Auburn University in Alabama. Roll Tide, hoorah! In the business, he was affectionately known as Mr. Redneck in the cutlery industry. One time he was asked a question in an interview with Blade magazine. The question was, what do you consider important qualities of a knife design? And his answer basically was ergonomics and practicality. If you get too far off of ergonomics and practicality, the knife won't do anything for you. At one time, he said Tactical Knives magazine did this article, and then the features that were spoken about in that article became what customers wanted in a knife, hence the Griptilian. So he said, when I designed the Griptilian, I designed it with ergonomics and practicality in mind. And because of that, the Griptilian has every feature that anybody could ever want. And because of that, it also has become one of the best-selling knives of all time against all other comers in the production knife field. Well, the fact of the matter is that the Griptilian is one of the best-selling knives of all time in the production knife market. Well, speaking in the industry, the Griptilian is one of the best-selling knives of all time. But at one time, the Griptilian didn't exist. It was actually preceded by a different model of knife, also designed by Mel Pardue. Prior to the Griptilian, Mel Pardue designed this knife here. This is the Benchmade Model 720. And that's all it was called, the Model 720. It came out around 99-2000, just a short time after the Model 710, which was the original knife that came out with this lock here, the strongest lock in existence, the Axis lock. Right. This knife is a Griptilian. The construction is Griptilian construction, except the scales are aluminum and the frame is underneath. After the 720 came the 721. Had the same Bowie style blade. It came serrated or plain. It came satin or black. But in this case, the grips were G10, something new to Benchmade. Highly compressed fiberglass. Again, with the Axis lock. But this knife was only around for a very short time. The original knife itself was made with ATS 34 steel, which might be very hard to see. And by the time the 721 came out, they were using 154 cm respectively. These were two of his early collaborations with Benchmade, but like I said, they weren't popular sellers and they flopped. Now, collectors look for them all over the place. It's very funny that now people will buy a Griptilian such as this, and then they go online and they hunt down aluminum grips such as this by some aftermarket companies, so they're going backwards. Even though this knife wasn't very popular, today people are hunting down aftermarket grips to put on a Griptilian. They were great knives. People look for them now as collector pieces, but he later brought back the construction of the Griptilian. These knives flopped and didn't make it, and he brought back the original construction. There we go. He brought back the original construction, but with a different grip style and a different grip pattern. This became what we know today as the Griptilian, and it's been a big hit, and it's changed the American knife market ever since. So the Griptilian series of knives has been around well over 15 years, and Mel Pardue, Mr. Redneck, has collaborated with Benchmade for just about 20 years, although sadly to say he recently passed. But he was known for his style, he was known for his simplicity, as well as the functionality of his blade craft. As Les Diasis, the owner of Benchmade, said, "When it comes to all-around functionality, you can't beat the Griptilian. There are more shapes, sizes, and colors available in the Griptilian than any other production family knife from Benchmade, period." So, let's get a little more in-depth with the Griptilian in this review for the best EDC knife for $100 or less and 100% American made. As I said, the designer is Mel, Mr. Redneck Pardue. The locking mechanism is the Axis. The action on this knife, whoop, here we go, is manual opener. It's not assisted. Right? The blade steel on these knives today is CM 154 at a Rockwell of 58 to 61. The blade length is 3.45 inches long, or 8.76 centimeters. The blade thickness, here, the blade thickness is 0.115 inches thick, or 2.92 millimeter. The open length of the entire knife is 8.07 inches, or 20.50 50 centimeters. Closed length is 4.62 inches at 11.73 centimeters. And the handle thickness, 0.64 inches or 16.26 millimeters. Now, let's discuss the blade types available on the Griptilian. First off, the modified drop point. Okay, this has a high flat grind. This knife weighs 3.88 ounces with this flat ground blade, or 110 grams. Benchmade calls the model 550 hollow grind a sheep's foot. I call it a modified drop point. It's also been called a variation of the reverse tanto, depending on the user, but in my opinion, it's a modified drop point. Just look at the shape. It's a modified spear. It's not a sheep's foot at all. But as I said, it depends on the user, but I'll argue that point with Les at Benchmade any day of the week. He knows me, I know him. I'm not somebody who wants to argue with. So as I said, they call this a sheep's foot. I call it a modified drop point. It is hollow ground. This knife weighs 3.79 ounces or 107.44 grams. Now, I don't happen to have one of these in a tanto blade, but the tanto blade is also another variation that the Griptilian comes in. It comes with a full flat edge or a partial serrated edge. I'm not a big fan of the tanto. As a matter of fact, the tanto edge that Benchmade incorporates is actually called an American chisel tanto style. It's not a traditional Satsuma swooping point, but it is an American chisel. It employs a high flat grind. It is also 3.89 ounces, 110.28 grams. So, as stated, the blade types are modified drop point, modified tanto, in other words, the American chisel. The sheep's foot or reverse tanto or modified drop point come in plain edge, half serrated, satin, or black. Now, there are many different kinds of steels that the Griptilian is offered in if you happen to buy one from the Benchmade custom shop. The steels are generally 154 cm, which Rockwell's at 5861. D2 carbon tool steel, which they Rockwell at 57 to 61. Austrian Bowler M690, which they Rockwell at 57 to 59. CPM 20 CV, which they Rockwell at 5961. The very popular M4 high-speed tool steel, which they Rockwell at 5861. And S30V, which they Rockwell at 5860. All of these different steel combinations and blade styles are available to you at the custom shop at Benchmade. Now, the next thing we'll discuss about the Griptilian and your best, my pick, my best EDC knife for $100 or less and 100% American made are these handles, these grips. I've heard other reviewers on YouTube refer to these grips as cheap plastic or having a cheap plastic feel, and this is just because some people who do reviews don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done the research, they're not in the business, and they say things they really should not say. These grips on the Benchmade Griptilian are made out of something called Grivory polycarbonate. Okay, Grivory is a proprietary blend of the original DuPont Zytel. Zytel being a combination of DuPont nylon and 50% or more of powdered glass. It's very strong. Grivory is called an amorphous nylon copolymer that is a stable material and considered to have excellent stiffness and strength qualities. Grivory polycarbonate is also considered to have excellent dimensional stability. In other words, it can hold any shape you give it, injection molded or not. Like I said, it's made out of DuPont nylon impregnated with 50% more of powdered glass. It's commonly called polycarbonate or commonly called Zytel, which originated by DuPont. This is what your handgun frames are made out of. Glock, Sig Sauer, HK, Walther, Beretta even makes it, Carr. Anybody that Sky Pistol, anybody that makes a pistol out of polycarbonate is using some form of Zytel, DuPont nylon, impregnated with powdered glass for stability. It's a proven material for metal replacement. The materials in this product range are based on semi-crystalline polyamides, in other words, glass for strength. Grivory GV is supplied as a granulate form for further processing in injection molding or extrusion processes using either conventional or commercially available equipment and molds. In other words, when Grivory is sold to Benchmade, it's sold to them in a granulate form because it's going to be heated, melted, and injection molded to create these handles. This is not plastic. So if you watch other reviewers on YouTube talking about the cheap plastic feel, first off, they don't feel cheap, and these handles are not cheap, and they're not plastic. Okay? Grivory is used in the manufacture of technical components that are characterized by high levels of stiffness and strength, which this has. It has little change in property values after the absorption of moisture because Grivory doesn't absorb moisture. So it has no dampness or water absorption properties. As mentioned, good dimensional stability, low warpage rates. You have to really heat this stuff up to get it to warp and or melt. It has excellent chemical resistance, which is typical of polyamides. If this was wood, if these grips were wood and exposed to chemicals, alcohol, other forms of petroleum, or other distillates, you'd probably destroy the wood. But the Grivory, the polycarbonate, has an excellent chemical resistance because of the glass and the nylon. It has an excellent surface quality. It holds whatever texture you give it. It's efficient and it's economical in production and it's strong. There are 6 grades of Grivory available in production these days. So let's look at Grivory so that we understand that it's not cheap plastic. Grivory GV is reinforced with glass fibers. It's very stiff. Grivory GVX has the highest stiffness and strength values with very low warpage rates of all the Grivory products. Grivory GM is reinforced with a mineral and has a low warpage rate. Grivory GVN is reinforced with glass fibers and has a high impact resistance. There's also something called Grivory GC, which is Grivory that's reinforced with carbon. Makes it very, very stiff. There's also Grivory G4V, which is reinforced with glass fibers as well and has a good surface quality. There's also Grivory GVS, which is also reinforced with glass fibers, has very good flow properties in production, injection molding. Then there's also Grivory GV FWA, which is reinforced with glass fibers for contact with foodstuff and drinking water in production. I don't know too much about it. I'm learning more about it, and I'll let you know in the future. These grades are available in a wide range of different modifications, which vary in terms of the concentration of the reinforcing agents used. In other words, the glass powder or the glass fiber and other stabilizers that they might use so that Grivory polycarbonate holds its shape. By the way, just to let you know, the Griptilian line of handles has come a long way. All right? Back in 2012, the black handle Griptilians were made of a different kind of a polycarbonate called Noril GTX, and the other colored versions, such as this, were made in Grivory. All right? The Grivory is the tougher synthetic handle material. It's tougher than the Noril GTX, which isn't used anymore on Griptilians. It's used on other knives, but today all the Griptilians are made with the Grivory, and it's an excellent, excellent polycarbonate. So, let's get a little more in depth about the review of the Benchmade Griptilian. Some more of the specs. The frame here that runs inside the handle. The frame of the Griptilian is made out of 410 stainless steel. It's a common grade of stainless with a very low carbon content, but a very high chromium content. And because of this, it has a very high bend strength or toughness and a very high corrosion resistance. The clip type is the standard Benchmade clip, but when I buy my Griptilians, I replace the standard what I call chiclet clip with this split arrow clip because this very steep curvature in the arrow, the split arrow, allows the knife to hug the rim of the pocket of my pants more firmly so that the knife doesn't slip out of the pocket so easily. Speaking about the clip on the Benchmade can either go right, left, but it's not made for up or down carry, tip up or tip down. It's one way, tip up, period. The knife doesn't have a glass breaker. They do come with a lanyard hole. They are not MOLLE compatible, so if you want to wear a Griptilian on a MOLLE vest, you have to put it in a MOLLE compatible scabbard. It doesn't come with a sheath, and its designation as far as Benchmade is concerned is everyday, outdoor, and tactical. The Griptilian does exactly what the name implies. It fills the grip. It fills the contour of the hand with the jimping and the firmness of the grip. Hence the name, Griptilian. It does exactly what Mr. Redneck Pardue said it would do. It will fit the hand ergonomically. It's one of the best parts. As a matter of fact, I've been in the cutlery business for 37 years. I've carried just about every knife out there in the last 37 years made within a certain brand group. I could carry any knife I want to carry. $200, $300, $400 Benchmade or other brands that I will not mention. But the knife I carry every day are these two Griptilians, because for the money and for the quality and for the construction, they will do everything I want, and they are made out of premium products, premium quality gear. Why do I need to keep $200 or $300 in my pocket? It's not needed. So as I said, the name Griptilian, as it implies, it fills the grips. There's no room for slip. The Grivory is textured with a diamond checkered pattern. All right. There's jimping on the blade here, thumb ramp. All right. Whether it's on the hollow grind or whether it's on the flat grind, there's jimping. All right. There's also jimping on the frame here, right behind the jimping on the ramp of the blade. There's also jimping in the form of injection molded jimping right behind the jimping of the frame. It's a lot of texture. Okay, all of this gives you a positive grip. There's also jimping on the underside here in what they call the choil section of the body. This is where your finger rests and some slip resistance here. This is the choil. Here's your frame. Right behind the frame is more injection molded jimping. Your hand, your fingers will not slip. All right? Right behind the frame. There's also jimping on both the top here, top back, and bottom back of the Griptilian to prevent slippage when the knife is in your hand. This knife will not slip. All this jimping, all this texturing makes for an ergonomic fit, a tactile, positive, cohesive grip that will not slip in your hand. I don't know of any other knife, more expensive or even cheaper, that afford the kind of ergonomics, patterning, and anti-slip properties that the Griptilian has. This is why I choose the Griptilian line as my best EDC for $100 or less and 100% American made. So there you have it, guys. This was my review of the Benchmade Griptilian line. This was my review of the best EDC knife you can carry for $100 or less, 100% American made. This is why I choose the Benchmade Griptilian. I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it went on a little bit, but I like to offer the best in technical specs and information. And if you're looking for an EDC knife, go to your local cutlery shop and consider putting a Griptilian in your hand, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Please comment, share this video, and please subscribe. You take care now.